What's going on, everybody? Che here with the No Spoon Podcast, back with another video. Um, Before we begin, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and take the time to do so right now. Also, like, share, comment, do whatever you need to do to get this out to as many people as possible. Your contribution, your sharing, your liking, your subscribing, all that is what makes this go, makes this happen, and it makes it possible we can make more videos and get them out there to as many people as possible and share this information. So it's very much appreciated. Um, Thank you for your contribution before we even start. With that being said, I'm going to get right into this video today. We all saw this tragic incident that happened during the Cincinnati Bengals and Buffalo Bills game on Monday night, where a Bills player, Damar Hamlin, suffered a cardiac arrest on the field. He had to be taken to the hospital where he was, according to his uncle, he was resuscitated 2 times. His heart failed. Um, we all saw the video. I'm not going to play it here. And then let me say this. I'm making this video with the intention. I'm not trying to get it taken down. So follow along, understand what I'm saying. Not going to say certain things. I'm going to refrain from trying to frame things in a certain way, but with at the same time getting you the information and getting you my side of what I think is going on and what I think that we need to pay attention to and what I think the lesson is that we need to learn from this. Um, so let me start off by saying, right, first of all, prayers for that young man, um, 24 years old. Uh, he's in critical condition right now. They say that as of right now, it's Wednesday, that his condition is getting better. So continue to have him in your prayers, and we pray for a speedy recovery, that everything goes fine and he's able to get back to full health. All right, obviously that's first and foremost. If you looked at the play, right? You looked at the play. There was nothing spectacular about it. It was a routine play. So all this idea that this is something that is part of the game of football, I don't buy that at all. And I think people that are saying that are being disingenuous. I think a lot of these NFL players, ex NFL players that are saying it, are being very disingenuous. This is a routine play. Like, this happens all the time. It was he tackled high. There was no helmet to helmet contact. That's the biggest thing that they look for in the NFL these days, is helmet to helmet stuff with the concussion protocols and all that. Um, there was nothing of that nature. There was nothing that happened on that play that it wasn't a big hit. No, there was no oohs and ahs that came from it. Regular tackle. T. Higgins is a wide receiver, so we're not even talking. Wasn't like Derrick Henry or something like that. I mean, he's a big guy, but these are world class athletes. Nothing spectacular. So the idea that this is a football related um, situation, I don't buy that at all. I think this is, there's something else going on, something more to it. Um, and though you can speculate all you want about it, right? Let me say this though. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I'm not his doctor. I don't know what took place. There has been no official word as to what took place other than a cardiac arrest, and there is no official word as to the cause or why this happened or anything of that nature, right? So I'm not going to sit here, Che, on the No Spoon podcast and say this is why this happened, because I don't know, right? And I'm not even in the position to even speculate, right? Other than the normal, what I think is common sense speculation that we all have to have. And when you look at that situation, like I said, there was nothing spectacular about it. He got up right away. I was around when Mike Utley from the Detroit Lions and Dennis Bird of the New York Jets, when they were paralyzed, and I believe Dennis Bird was like a quadriplegic, like he couldn't use any of his limbs, right? Those hits were football hits, and they were hits that you can look at in the way that they were positioned, the way that their head was, their spine alignment, that they were dangerous hits, and we knew what it was. There was a big reaction then. I mean, it was terrible. The game went on, and those guys were paralyzed. Obviously, Damar Hamlin was fighting for his life. He couldn't breathe. So that's a big thing. I'm not going to question whether the game should have been stopped or not. I think that was the right call. I'm just saying in those other instances, the game went on. This wasn't a social media era as well. This was in, I think, the early '90s, so we didn't have this a lot of sensationalized stuff and a lot of things that I see coming from ESPN and a lot of these networks. To me, I'm not saying that it's not tragic what took place. I'm saying that there is a lot of sensationalization going on um, to get clicks. You know what I mean? To get views. But anyways, with that being said, um, immediately you're having people point out this condition called comatiocortis. I don't know if I'm saying that right because I've never heard of that until then. But and I'm guaranteed, watch, this is just like what we just witnessed with another health crisis. There's already people who are like experts in comatiocortis that have never heard of it a day in their life. But the way people talk about it on social media and stuff, it's like, oh yeah, comatiocortis. Like, yeah, my uncle got that the other day. Oh, I hope I don't go out there and catch a cold or comatiocortis. You know what I mean? Like, no one's ever heard of this, and the likelihood of that happening is so rare. They say that that it mostly happens, and what it is, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Like I said, I don't know. I just heard about this, and from what my understanding is, it's a very rare incident when normally a projectile hits you in a specific place in your heart, around your heart area, and it has to happen at a specific time, and it's so rare. It's like, lightning striking, right? And usually it happens with younger boys, mainly the medium age is like 15. And it's rare. I mean, very, very, very rare. Very rare that that's happened, right? And so, like, people are saying that that's what happened. That's what it is. That's what's all trending on Twitter and all social media. And a lot of people are coming forward and saying it was the hit. It was that. This is what took place. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. It just seems kind of, unlikely. I think there was an NHL player that happened to when the puck hit him in the chest. you know, Rare thing. But it's not like something you see all the time, right? Like, I don't think we've ever seen this, especially in football. We've never seen that happen where a player has cardiac arrest, had to be resuscitated on the field, couldn't breathe, and his life was in danger. Like that, this is so rare. Um, and then it be coming from a world-class athlete. You're an NFL player. You're very few in as far as physically in the world. You were 24 years old. You have the best doctors at your disposal. If there was an issue going on, pre-existing condition, it would have been caught at some point in time, right? So to say that maybe there were some pre-existing things, like I said, that just doesn't, to me, that doesn't make sense because, like I said, all these things at your disposal, the condition that you need to be in to even be in the NFL, doesn't mean that it can't happen. Doesn't mean that this comatiocortis can't happen. It's a possibility. Is it probable? No, because we've seen routine hits like that happen. I mean, there was probably 1,000 hits harder than that hit just this past weekend, right? So I don't look at that hit and be like, "Oh, this is what caused it." Like, I a lot of those things are possible, right? Yeah, they're possible. If we don't talk about the elephant in the room, and you know where I'm going with this, because it's the elephant in the room. It's like, oh, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah, right. Yeah. And like I said, I don't want to get this taken down, so I'm not going to say it. But we all know that there's something going on. We all know that, right? And people can explain this away in so many different ways as much as they want, but it doesn't take away from the fact that there's something going on, right? That there are reactions, there are things happening. I seen a statistic, and I think it was Dr. Simone Gold who had said there was like 1,106, and don't quote me on that number, but it's around there, since 1960 of cardiac arrest happening with athletes on the field. I got to look into that a little bit more. Fact check me on that if you have something different. But then they were saying that that exact same number or around that same number has happened since 2020. Now, let me just say this. A couple years ago, I started having um, some anaphylactic reactions, right? Um, I would break out, I would um, swell up. I had to be rushed to the hospital a couple of times. I needed an EpiPen. You know, they gave me medication, a bunch of different things, right? And so we didn't know where it was. I didn't know where it came from. It just happened. It's never happened to me before. Like I said, this was a few years ago. So um, this is about 2019. I think I was like 36 or something like that. So that's never happened to me before. And all of a sudden, I was getting these reactions. Every single time that I went to the hospital for one of these reactions, the doctors would ask me the exact same thing. What have you eaten? What have you been around? What have you been exposed to? What did you put inside your body, or what were what was your body exposed to differently than you normally are exposed to, than you normally put inside your body? Did you take a medication? Did you eat a different kind of food? Did you drink a different kind of drink? Did you take a different type of drug? Did you do anything differently? Was there anything physically that you came in contact with or ingested that was different? The reason being is because something different has happened to your body. Your body has reacted to something differently. So we want to know what is different about you, what is different about your body. That was the first thing. And we would have to go through it. We have to think about it. What did I eat? What I eat last night? What I eat the night before? Different combinations, food. Um, there's all type of things. Like there's all type of things you have to kind of take account for. What was different? Obviously, right? So when you start to see athletes, young men, healthy people having cardiac arrest, something we've never seen before. When you start to see that children are developing myocarditis, a heart problem, blood clotting in people that are seemingly healthy. We're starting to see that more and more and more. We have to ask, what are people doing differently? What have people put in? Let me start that whole part over because I don't know how far we went. So a few years ago, right, I started to have um an allergic reaction, right? I would break out, I would have swelling, shortness of breath, all these different things. A few times I had to go to the emergency room in order to, take care of it. They gave me EpiPen, all type of stuff. That's never happened to me before, right? I've never had that happen. And at the time I was 36, and this happened for about a couple years. And so every single time I went, the doctors would ask me the same things. What have you done differently? What have you eaten differently? What have you put inside your body that's different? What have you done to your body that's different? What have you been exposed to anything that's different that you don't normally do? Right? What is it? Because something different has happened. You have reacted in a different way. We need to know if there's something different that you've done. Do you not normally eat seafood, and then you ate seafood and then you had a reaction? I think we can narrow it down that seafood is the problem. That's how that works, right? If you don't eat seafood your whole life, then you eat seafood, and you have an allergic reaction, I think we can start to say that it's seafood, right? So that's what they would always do because we have to find out what happened. When you're seeing things happen that you've never seen before, young people developing myocarditis, these heart conditions, people getting blood clots, people having cardiac arrest, perfectly healthy people having heart problems, having these type of issues happen to them, right? We have to say, what are these people doing different? And it's happening on a mass scale. I think there was a study that said that there are the same amount of cardiac arrest between 2020 to today, the same amount as there was between 1960 and 2020 of cardiac arrest from athletes happening right there on the field. Like, this is unprecedented stuff. You're not hearing about it a lot, and there's reasons for that, right? There's perfectly logical reasons for that. But you have to ask yourself, why are these things happening, right? And to just come out and say that it's some freak kind of improbable occurrence when there's something else that we have put inside of us that we've never been put inside of us before, that's never been put inside people before. I, I don't know why we're not talking about that. And here's the biggest red flag is that you're not allowed to talk about that. You're you're immediately dismissed if you talk about that. If you bring up the most obvious, you're immediately dismissed. Now, look, I think that there's a lot of people that they don't want this to be the case. They don't want to, they trust so much in and they put so much trust in these individuals that they don't want it to be the case. I'll give you an example. I know somebody um who had a reaction, right? And this reaction lasted for a couple of weeks. And I remember talking to him, and this is a true story. And this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about here. And I asked him, I said, "W- what have you, I asked the same question, right? What did you do different? Did you eat something?" He said, "No, I didn't do anything different. Everything's the same. I didn't eat anything different. I didn't wear any clothes different. I wasn't exposed to anything different." He said, "My family thinks that it's from the thing, right?" I already knew that he had took it, right? So he said, "My family think it's from that." He goes, "But it can't be from that because the doctor didn't say that that's one of the side effects." True story. We both looked at each other, and when he said it, he looked at me like, this doesn't make any sense. And I looked at him like, "Okay, all right, that's what it is then." I don't you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna argue with you if that's what you want to go with. Doesn't make any sense to me, but if that's what you want to go with, who am I to say, tell you anything different? Whatever. Your body, your choice, right? Your mind, your choice. Your belief, your choice. I don't care. Doesn't make any sense to me. Of course, the doctor's going to tell you that. What do you think he's going to say? You, there's incentives behind these things, man. Incentives behind these. Of course, they don't want you to. They're not going to say that. They're still promoting it. Joe Biden and his wife said, "Merry Christmas, Happy New Year." Plus, make sure you go out and get that. They're not going to tell you that. We're waiting for the people that made it and endorsed it and put their reputation behind it to come out and say, "Big mistake." We're seeing so many different occurrences that we've never seen before, and we want people to act like, "Oh, they're supposed to come out and tell us the truth." Why? Why would they tell you the truth? And let me get into that a little bit. Let me get into that a little bit because I think it's important, and I think people really don't understand it because people will sit here and say, "So you think that they're all lying? You think that they're all just saying this?" That's not how that works, right? Let me give you an example, right? A lot of people think, like, when you're a kid, you say, "Oh, I want to be a scientist." Well, how does that work? How do you get paid as a scientist? Like, you can't just, I'm going to be a scientist. I got my degree, and now I'm going to open up a science store and I'm going to sell science. That's not how that works. Like, it's not the same as selling cars or selling candy or selling a grocery store or something like that, right? How do you sell science? I mean, we do sell science to a certain extent, right? There are people that fund these things, right? Some of it is taxpayers, some of it are private institutions, whatever, but people fund research, right? A lot of the research is taking place in medical institutions, universities, um, hospitals. They have research and development. They have people that research this stuff. So I need to go get funding if I want to get these certain research done. And these people have an interest in doing so. So let's just say you have like the NIH, the National Institute of Health, who was ran by none other than Anthony Fauci, right? Um, that they give out the most in these type of medical and scientific research. I think it's like $32 billion a year they give out in grants to for these for funding, right? To fund these type of projects. So a lot of the cancer research, a lot of the heart condition research, a lot of the, all the different diseases and medical issues and viruses and all these different things, infectious, all these things, right? They're funded, right? What happens is the tax dollars go to this because we feel like that's a good thing to do, that we should research these things. Also, who gives money to this are the people that are trying to produce these type of drugs and treatments, pharmaceutical companies, right? They fund research. Lot independent people can fund research. If I want to give people give, $5 million donation to a university for cancer research, John Hopkins, you know what I mean? These type of things happen all the time. Um, so let's just say for an example, you're a cardiologist, you work at a hospital, right? And this hospital is funded through grant money, um, federal funding, NIH money, all these like they're getting a lot of money from these places, right? Now, let's say I'm a cardiologist and I start having patients and I start to see a pattern, a common thread in a lot of these problems, right? And I say, I want to look into this. I want to talk about this. I want to look into it. I see a common denominator. Well, that common denominator is promoted by the people that fund you, right? And it's lobbied by the people that make the product. So the people that make the product, they come to the government and they say, "We'll make the product, you buy it." The politicians that get the legislators, they're politicians, they're elected. They want to be able to go to their constituents and say that we had an answer for this, the whole dilemma that we saw in 2020, right? We have an answer for that. So they want to put the public at ease. So they have an incentive to make that deal so that they could get reelected. Continues to give them power. The people that make it have an incentive because they get paid, right? They then take that money and they lobby the politicians, and they also use that to advertise into media, funding the media, right? So if the media publishes a story that contradicts what I'm putting out there, my product, that messes with my pockets. No more advertising, right? That's how that works. The government who's giving the funding, right, are in on this. Like I said, they have an incentive. You give me power, we give you money, right? If somebody who they're funding, I'm the cardiologist, starts to say something that threatens the pockets of the people that make the product, we pull the money. So you see how this works? So if I'm a cardiologist and I see this thing, and then I go to my superiors and I say, "Hey, look, I think we should look into this," and my superior is gonna go, "Look, man, if we do that, they can pull the funding on this other stuff we got going on, and that's thousands of people's jobs could be lost because we're not going to get funding from that anymore." So now you have a moral dilemma. What do you do? Do you tell the truth on something as an as a doctor, as a scientist, as a person that's trying to find the truth? That's what you're supposed to do, and risk losing all these people's jobs. I mean, that's the moral dilemma that you're in. So you don't have to you don't have to make that person lie. You don't have to pull them into your office and say, "Hey, this is what we got going on," right? So don't say nothing. You don't have to do that. He who pays the piper picks the tune. You are going to play the tune that the person that pays the money. This is simple, right? This is common sense and logic. You don't have to do that. These people will willfully debunk any type of questioning of the product because that's where the funding is coming from. They'll willfully do it. You see it happen all the time. See, the people making the product, they don't have to go and say, "Hey, media, don't say that." They got people, experts, doctors. Man, go. These people over here saying this. Okay, don't worry. We'll debunk that. No, I know what you're thinking. However, it's probably it was hit at the right place at the right time at the exact nanosecond. That's what took place. And anybody that doesn't agree with that, shut them up, silence them. They're spreading misinformation. Think about this. I People always say, "Oh, I we trust the science." You heard that since 2020. Trust the science. Oh, I trust the science. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. I get that. I'm not either, right? But I'm also aware of the fact that science can be bought. Science can be sold. Why not? You're naive to think that's not happening. So I understand that there's a lot of, like I said, I don't know what took place. I don't know what happened with Damar Hamlin. But I think that when there is something unprecedented that's been added to people's bodies, and people were forced to take through mandates, um, the loss of their livelihood, and then you're not allowed to question it. You're not allowed to say anything about it. You're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to even speak on it on certain platforms. It's a red flag. That's a problem. I'm not a doctor, but if somebody comes up and says something crazy, you should easily be able to refute it. Your science should be able to refute it, but they don't even want to have that conversation. And that is the problem. I have nothing but prayers, nothing but good energy for Damar Hamlin. I hope he recovers. Um, I also hope we're able to be honest soon. I really do. Subscribe to the channel, man. I got nothing else. I'm Che. Where we talk about culture, politics, and common sense here on the No Spoon Podcast.